Before you close your eyes tonight, I want you to pause and truly listen, because the night is not just a moment of rest, it is a gate. And what you do at a gate determines what comes in and what goes out. Many people lie down after a long day carrying burdens, fears, frustrations, and unanswered questions. But prayer is the bridge that takes you from chaos into peace, from uncertainty into alignment. The night is far more than a moment when your body becomes tired and seeks rest. It is a deeply spiritual transition, a gateway between what was and what will be. Every time the day folds into darkness, something in the realm of the spirit becomes more active, more deliberate, more sensitive. When the sun sets, distractions decrease, noises fade, and the heart becomes more exposed. It is in this vulnerable state that spiritual transactions are often made. The night is a gate because it represents an entry point and an exit point. What you allow into your heart, your mind, and your atmosphere can shape the direction of your life. And what you release through prayer can determine the victories you walk into. Most people see nighttime as the end of their responsibilities, the closing of a chapter, the moment to escape into sleep. But spiritually, the night is never passive. Throughout scripture and throughout life, significant encounters, instructions, visions, and even attacks often come at night, because the night offers a stillness the day does not. It is at night that the subconscious becomes open, the spirit becomes more aware, and without intentional spiritual covering, a person can become vulnerable to influences they do not understand. That is why what you do before you sleep is not trivial. It is not just routine, it is warfare, preparation, alignment, and communion. Think of the night as a spiritual doorway. Every doorway requires discernment. You do not step through a door without being aware of what is on the other side. In the same way, you do not step into the night casually. You don't allow the exhaustion of your day to make you spiritually careless. Many go to bed with unresolved anger, unprocessed emotions, anxious thoughts, and lingering fears, and without realizing it, these become invitations, permissions for heaviness to settle deeper into the heart. But when you understand that nighttime is a gate, you become intentional. You recognize that gates must be guarded, and the believer's greatest tool of spiritual security is prayer. Before you sleep, you stand at that gate not in fear, but in understanding. You recognize that prayer is how you command the atmosphere around your rest. Prayer is how you declare what has no right to follow you into the night. Prayer is how you establish what you want to wake up into. The night, when unguarded, can magnify the worries of the day, but when covered in prayer, it becomes a chamber of renewal. The night can be a place of attacks, but when entrusted to God, it becomes a place of encounter. The night can be a time of confusion, but under spiritual alignment, it becomes a time of revelation. When you see the night as a spiritual gate, you stop moving into it casually. You become aware that every night carries possibilities, decisions, influences, and spiritual activities that can shape your next morning, your week, your direction, and even your destiny. Understanding this truth positions you to value what you do before you sleep. It opens your eyes to the power of intentionality, the necessity of spiritual readiness, and the wisdom of meeting the night with prayer rather than passivity. Prayer is not just an act, it is an alignment. It is the moment when all the scattered pieces of your mind, emotions, and spirit begin to find order beneath the presence of God. Throughout the day, the heart absorbs noise, pressure, frustration, and countless impulses that can cloud clarity and hinder peace. But when you pray before you sleep, something begins to settle. The noise that once echoed loudly within you begins to fade, and the weight of unprocessed thoughts starts to lift. Prayer becomes the instrument that brings your inner world into harmony after the chaos of the day. It creates space for stillness, for reflection, and for the gentle whisper of divine direction. Prayer is like tuning your spirit to the correct frequency. Just as a radio cannot catch the right signal until it is properly aligned, your spirit cannot receive the guidance and impressions God is releasing if it is still drowning in the residue of the day. Prayer cleanses. It declutters. It repositions you into a place where the voice of God can be heard without interference. Many people try to sleep while their spirit is unsettled, while their mind is overwhelmed, and while their heart is burdened. This creates restless nights, troubling dreams, and a sense of heaviness that carries into the next day. But prayer before sleep calms the storms within, allowing the heart to breathe again and the mind to find quietness. In prayer, your heart becomes honest. The things you could not express to others, the questions you held back, the fears you pretended not to feel, these all come to the surface in the presence of God. Prayer gives you permission to be vulnerable without judgment, to be weak without shame, to be uncertain without being condemned. It is in this place of openness that divine alignment happens. God begins to recalibrate your perspectives, soothe your emotions, and strengthen areas you didn't even know were draining. The more you open your heart in prayer, the more God pours healing into hidden places. Beyond calming the heart, prayer opens your spirit to divine activity. The night is a highly spiritual moment, and prayer positions you to receive the workings of God while you rest. Instructions can come through dreams. Encouragement can come through impressions. Clarity can come through subtle nudges in your spirit. But this sensitivity is not automatic. It is activated by prayer. When you pray, you invite God to speak, to move, and to influence the unseen dimensions of your life. You grant Him access to shape your thoughts, redirect your desires, and guard your atmosphere while you sleep. There is also a purification that happens when you pray before bed. The negative attitudes you may have absorbed from interactions, the temptations you resisted but still felt, the disappointments you carried silently. Prayer washes these away. It resets your inner posture so that you do not carry emotional toxins into the next day. It shifts your focus from the limitations of your strength to the sufficiency of God's presence. Prayer aligns your heart with the truth that you are not alone, that you are guided, that you are covered, and that the God who walked with you through the day will watch over you through the night. Many people move through life unaware that the night is often the arena where the most intense spiritual battles take place. While the physical world grows quiet, the spiritual realm becomes more active, more deliberate, and more sensitive. The night is a time when thoughts deepen, emotions intensify, and vulnerabilities become more exposed. It is in this stillness that battles of fear, confusion, temptation, oppression, and spiritual interference often attempt to rise. Long before these battles manifest physically, they are first fought in the quietness of the night. Without prayer, many step into sleep unguarded, leaving their spirit open to influences that seek to weaken, distract, or derail them. But when you understand the reality of nighttime battles, prayer becomes not just an option. It becomes your protective armor. In the night, the mind is no longer occupied with the busyness of the day. It becomes a canvas where unresolved issues, suppressed emotions, and spiritual impressions surface. This is why some people wake up feeling drained, troubled, or unsettled even after hours of sleep. It is not always physical exhaustion. Sometimes their spirit was engaged in warfare they were unaware of. Prayer before sleep is what fortifies your inner man, so that even when your body rests, your spirit stands strong. It is the declaration that anything that rises against you in the night will find you covered, guarded, and strengthened by the presence of God. The night is also a time when the enemy attempts to manipulate thoughts, influence dreams, or sow seeds of fear and deception. These battles are subtle, occurring in the subconscious through impressions or emotions that feel intrusive or overwhelming. Prayer breaks these influences. It erects a barrier that darkness cannot cross. When you pray before sleep, you invite the light of God to fill the atmosphere of your rest, leaving no room for oppression or spiritual interference. Prayer becomes the shield that filters what enters your dreams, what touches your mind, and what tries to influence your destiny while you are unaware. Many breakthroughs, deliverances, and divine interventions happen at night as well. It is not only a time of potential attack, it is a time of potential victory. God often releases encounters, visions, instructions, and supernatural strength in the stillness of the night because your mind is quiet enough to receive them. But where there is opportunity, there is also opposition. This is why prayer is essential. It positions your spirit on the winning side of nighttime battles. It declares that the night will not be a period of vulnerability, but a period of spiritual advantage. Prayer transforms the night from a battleground into a place of communion, revelation, and empowerment. When you recognize that the night is spiritually charged, you stop treating it casually. You understand that sleep is not only a physical act, but a spiritual transition. You prepare for it the way a soldier prepares before stepping onto a battlefield. Not with fear, but with awareness and readiness. Prayer equips you with divine reinforcement, ensuring that whatever battles arise in the night, you are not fighting alone. It surrounds your rest with divine presence, ensuring that the night submits to the authority of God and that your spirit remains in a posture of victory even while your body sleeps. Rest is one of the most misunderstood experiences in the human life, because many assume rest only concerns the body. But true rest begins within, long before your head touches a pillow. There are people who sleep for 8 or 10 hours and still wake up weary, burdened, and emotionally exhausted because their spirit was never at peace. The body may lie down, but if the heart is troubled and the spirit is restless, sleep becomes only a temporary escape, not a true reset. Before you sleep, something within you must come into a state of alignment, and this happens through prayer. Prayer brings order to the inner world. It calms the storms of anxiety, it softens the tension of fear, and it diffuses the pressure that often accumulates silently throughout the day. The human spirit carries more weight than the body ever could. Throughout the day, you encounter many things: frustrating conversations, unexpected disappointments, silent fears about the future, internal battles you don't talk about, worries that try to settle in your mind. These experiences do not disappear simply because the day has ended. They linger. They follow you. And if left unaddressed, they travel with you into the night. This is why some people lie awake with their thoughts racing, their heart heavy, their mind replaying moments they wish they could forget. But prayer before sleep interrupts this cycle. It allows you to unload the weight of the day, to breathe again, and to see things through the lens of peace instead of pressure. There is a kind of peace that the world cannot give, a peace that does not depend on perfect circumstances. This peace is the atmosphere in which true rest flourishes. When you pray before sleeping, you invite this peace to fill your heart. You release every concern into the hands of the God who holds tomorrow. You silence the internal noise that tries to convince you that everything depends on your strength. Prayer becomes the doorway through which peace enters. And once peace enters, rest becomes deeper, richer, and more restorative. The body may sleep naturally, but the spirit only rests when it has surrendered its burdens. A peaceful spirit also shapes the quality of your dreams, the clarity of your thoughts, and the strength of your emotions. When your heart is at rest, your mind does not wander into fear. Your thoughts do not spiral into anxiety. Instead, you sleep with a sense of safety. You sleep knowing you are watched over. You sleep knowing that nothing hidden in the night can overpower you, because you have already handed the atmosphere of your rest into the presence of God. This kind of rest does not just recharge the body, it nourishes the soul. It clears emotional fog, renews hope, and strengthens resilience. Many underestimate how spiritual rest truly is. When your spirit is aligned, your sleep becomes a tool God uses to refresh you, recalibrate you, and prepare you for the assignments of the next day. But without spiritual peace, even a full night of sleep feels empty. Prayer is the posture that prepares you for true rest. It resets your emotions, it anchors your thoughts, and it settles your heart into a place where the presence of God becomes the environment of your sleep. When the spirit is at peace, the body follows, and rest becomes more than sleep. It becomes renewal, restoration, and quiet strength. A night covered in prayer is never an ordinary night. It becomes a spiritual gateway through which divine guidance, protection, and renewal flow freely into your life. When you choose to pray before you sleep, you are inviting God to step into the quiet spaces of your night and shape what your tomorrow will look like. Many people underestimate the power of what happens when a heart turns toward God at the end of the day. They rush into sleep carrying fears, decisions, uncertainties, and emotional burdens, not realizing that prayer is the key that unlocks peace and divine involvement. But when you pause to pray, you create a spiritual atmosphere that welcomes the activity of God into your rest. Guidance often comes in the still moments when the mind is quiet and the spirit is open. Prayer prepares your inner environment for God to speak. It positions you to receive wisdom that may not come through the noise of the day. God can drop ideas into your heart, impressions into your spirit, or clarity into your thoughts while you sleep. Some of the greatest instructions, breakthroughs, and inner shifts happen in dreams, in subtle whispers, or in the deep work of the Holy Spirit during the night. Prayer opens this channel. It tells God, I am listening even in my rest. It invites Him to navigate your thoughts, align your desires, and whisper direction where confusion once sat. Divine protection is also activated through prayer. The night is spiritually sensitive, and while the body sleeps, the spirit is still engaged. Without prayer, a person may become spiritually vulnerable to attacks, oppressive dreams, or emotional heaviness. But when you pray, you surround your sleep with the shield of God's presence. You declare that no darkness has permission to invade the atmosphere of your rest. You invite angelic covering, spiritual stability, and supernatural security. Prayer establishes boundaries in the spirit, barriers that fear cannot cross, that anxiety cannot enter, and that the enemy cannot penetrate. A prayed over night becomes a safe night, not because danger is absent, but because God is present. Renewal is one of the greatest gifts God releases in the night. The body may regenerate through natural rest, but the spirit, the heart, and the emotions are renewed through divine presence. When you pray before you sleep, you hand every burden, every disappointment, and every piece of emotional clutter into God's hands. This surrender allows Him to work within you while you are unconscious. He restores strength, repairs weary places, heals silent wounds, and breathes fresh life into your inner man. You wake up not just rested, but refreshed, carrying a peace that cannot be explained, a strength that feels new, and a clarity that was not there before. Renewal is not accidental. It is the fruit of a heart that chooses to anchor itself in God before entering the silence of the night. Prayer transforms your night into a spiritual encounter. It turns your room into an altar. It turns your rest into holy ground. It turns your dreams into channels of communication between you and the God who watches over you without sleeping. When you pray before you sleep, You are not performing a ritual. You are inviting heaven to participate in your night, to shape your thoughts, to guard your spirit, and to prepare your next day with divine intention. This is why a prayerful night is never wasted. It becomes the womb from which guidance, protection, and renewal are birthed, shaping your life in ways you may not fully understand, but will always benefit from.